Now, let's get right down to it. Let's have a little bit of music.
Tribal nights underneath fluorescent sky, bonfires rage, strange, wild, shouting Picasso faces in the guise of lioness, throwing kisses above your head. You can hear animal life, you can hear them cry. Say that you never
Thank you. Good job, guys and girls. So I am Adrian Belew, and I'm here to talk about gear, or anything you want to talk about. Might even take some questions from you, if you like. But first I'm going to talk about looping, because normally this is a trio, and I rely a lot on looping to fill in the gap, sort of. So when I take a solo, for example, I make a little loop, and then I soar off, and it doesn't sound like the rhythm guitar player left the building. So let me just show you what I just did. I made a loop like this. Even with a hiccup in there. Then I start playing a solo. With one guitar sound. That is the fractal axe effects from Fractal Audio. But that's not enough. Now I wanted to decide to add another guitar sound. So here you go. There you go. That's how I do it. That's all the magic I have. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to talk to you about those things. So first I'll tell you a little bit about this rig that I have. First of all, loopers are whatever you need them to be. There's so many good loopers. I don't recommend one in particular. They're like cars. They have features. So you pick the one that's got the features you like. What I play through up here is an Axe Effects, as I said. Axe Effects is not the only piece of gear that sounds like an Axe Effects these days. You now have things like the Line 6 Helix, for example. Coming out soon, I think the Roland's jumping in the pool with their GR1000, and all of those are geared to kind of give you the same thing you have in the Axe Effects, which is just about every effect in the world. Or you could use an H9, Eventide, like Julie does. Along with that, the second guitar sound was a little box from Boss called a GP10. And the cool thing about the GP10, it does lots of sounds and does lots of things, especially for a small box. Not trying to sell you any of them. But the thing it does, one thing it does, for example, you can tell it different tunings. You can teach it each string a different tuning, okay. So when you really are in a trio, or even if you're in a 15-piece band, you suddenly want to sound like two guitar players playing a nice instant harmony. There you go, that's what that box is for. Or like I just used it then, where I put another solo sound on top of the solo I was already playing. Oh, by the way, I turned the first one around backwards at the same time. Sorry. Okay, the last thing that's on my side over here is a computer. I wish it's the only thing in a way, but it'd be a lot easier to travel the world. But anyway, I have a laptop and I'm running Ableton. And Ableton Live allows me, for one thing, it's my looper. It's also my mixer for these different things that I told you about. The last thing is what's at my feet. In the middle there is a Liquid Foot Midi device. Now, once again, lots of different MIDI controllers to choose from. That's just the one I chose. It's nice and small. Fits in this case right here. To one side, I have my volume for the Axe effects and the expression pedal that goes with it. To the other side, I have my GP10 volume. The last thing in the equation, last two things. Right down here, I have a Digitech Harmony Man for when I want to put a harmony in there. And I also run everything through a Philosopher Tone compressor before it runs into anything else. That little baby is sitting in the back there. That's enough of that now. You got it? You got all that written down? Have any questions yet? Good. What do I think about the new In Discipline version that Jocko sang? Does anyone know what he's talking about? It's a trap, right? You're trying to trump me on this, aren't you? I'll be totally, utterly honest. I have not heard it, not seen the band. Once I was relieved of my responsibilities, so to speak, after 33 years, I decided, well, I'm moving on, so I got to put that back here, march forward. So I wish everybody a lot of luck with all of that. I really don't know Jocko. I'm sure he's great. And I've not heard that version. Anybody else have a question before we get to play some more? Say that again, please. Why do I run through compressor? Well, I don't know. You know, the thing about compression, especially these guitar pedal compressions, not the studio model ones. The studio model ones are very smooth. You can't even tell it's being compressed. This guitar sound, you can tell it's being compressed because it goes sort of the notes pop open. And the second thing about a compressor, a good compressor, they sustain longer. So I use my compressor. I have the volume set at noon, and I have the sustain cranked all the way up. And I've done that probably on every record I've ever made. Just in case. There's another trick there. One more question and we'll go ahead. What kind of guitar is that? Thank you. I'm so glad you asked. I wasn't going to say much about this because even here at GearFest, where they have every single piece of gear I could ever want in my life, I don't think they have this. Because this is the Adrian Belew model Parker Fly, and they only made 50 of them. And I don't know that Parker makes guitars right now. I'm very saddened by that. For me, it's the best guitar in the world for me. Plays like a dream, stays in tune, neck feels like butter. I can tell you a million things about it. But since you can't really own one, it's not a reason to go too much further. But it's a Parker Fly, and, my thoughts on guitars are whatever works for you. That's exactly what all of this stuff is about. That's what GearFest is about, period. You have so many, many, many choices now for loopers, 50 loopers, compressors, 300 different compressors, right? You just got to sit down, read, listen, go on the internet, check things out, plug it in, try it, and say, that's the best one for the money I've got, and that's it. That's where I'm going. Same with guitars. When a guitar speaks to you is when you play it, and it just sustains, and there's just something about it. You go, I just love the way this feels and sounds. That's the guitar you should have. Okay, let's play another song. I want to play something from this group that he mentioned a minute ago, and I'm going to have my singer friend sing it for me. Here you are. Come back, Mark. Mark Hassett. And this is from the first King Crimson album I was ever part of. It was called, and it still is called, Discipline. My advice is that you wait until you hear it.
Rain by rain, death by drowning, in your now.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Now, the tricky thing about that song is Robert Fripp, the other guitarist, and myself in King Crimson in 1981, decided to create sort of an interwoven guitar thing that we could utilize through lots of the material, like the thing I played at the end. First of all, I want to explain to you that it's in 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But you never count sevens or anything else. You have to feel what they are. So this is how it was explained to me by Mr. Frank Zappa. Each one or 2 or 3 represents a quaver. And so if you're playing in 7, what you need to find out is, well, there's a place where you accent. In 7, it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. See, you're accenting 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 7. That's the new math, you know. So what you really have to do is go da 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 da. Got to get used to playing in da 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 da. That's a 7. That's a 7. Here's a 5. Here's a 5. Here's a 5. And that's all you do. And that's why you can shake your booty like I do while you're dancing around in 7. Now, back to this little thing that I was telling you about that Robert and I discovered. The first thing that happens is we both play a line in 7. And we play that line 2 times in a row. 2 bars of 7. Here's that figure. That's 2 bars of that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There it is. We start playing that together, and then one of us, mostly Robert, deviates from that by dropping off the last note of the 14 quavers. So you see what happens then. He's playing in 13. I'm playing in 7. But we're still playing the same figure. So it comes back around eventually, as mathematical things do, and it joins up again. And that's when there's bliss. Heaven opens up. So I'll show you how I do it here with a looper by first playing the 7 and looping it. And then I'm going to, once I've done that, I'll play the other part that's in 13. Here you go. That's the original part. Now I'm going to put the 13 in by dropping off 1 note. Now they're back together, yay! Okay, so there you go. In case you ever wanted to know that. Crimson fans have asked me that a lot, so that's what that's all about. So that's just another way of using a looper in a live situation. Since I don't have Robert Fripp sitting on a stool over here in the dark, I brought this little looper instead. Questions? Any questions on this section? Hey. What was the most... To play or sing? Every damn one of them. What are you talking about? I don't think he wrote an easy one, did he? I rehearsed for 3 months with Frank, and because I was a non-reader, the only one in the band and one of the few that he ever used, he had this great idea that on the weekends, after our Friday rehearsal, I would get in his car, go home with him, and over the weekend he would show me the parts for the next week that were coming up. So that way I could, get a head start on the guys who were Monday morning going to get it on sheets of paper. So in that 3 months' time, I devoted my life to Frank Zappa. I didn't even have a car, and I was living in L.A., so, what else was I going to do? And I learned 5 hours of Frank Zappa material. I think all of it was amazing, but in my heart, I still come back to Pajama People. I don't know why. You want to hear a story from Frank Zappa? I tell this one the most because it's pretty quick. And I know you've actually had some of the Zappa boys here, right? You've had Dweezil? Yeah? Have you had Amit? Not yet. Okay, well, the first weekend I went home with Frank. Saturday morning, I woke up. We were sitting in the living room on the purple couch where I had auditioned the day before, a few weeks before. And his son, Amit, rode a bicycle, little red tricycle, through the front of the living room and started doing this. Circle 8, and he had these long, beautiful spit curls that I could only dream of. And I said to Frank, "That's a beautiful girl you have there." And Amit pulled his trike right up in front of me and said, "Fuck you." He was 5 years old, by the way. That was my initiation into the world of Zappa. And I will play something for you that I think Frank might have liked if he had ever been able to hear it. I know Robert Fripp said he liked it, so. Let's go. Let's find it. That wasn't it. That song, one of my own, is mostly in 15. I don't know why I do these things to myself and others. Having a good time? I'm having a lovely time. I wish I could have everything that's here. One of each and coffee to go, please. In case you just stepped in, this is Jordan Perlson on drums. Mark Hassett on vocal. Julie Slick on bass guitar. And that was me, as usual. Now, I'm very, very happy to be here. I love Sweetwater. They've done a lot of great stuff for me over the years. I'm going to say thank you again to all of them. What an incredible thing this is they're doing every year. And I'd love to come back next year when I got a voice. But I'm also here on behalf of Diodario. Now, you know, no matter whether you've got a $10,000 Parker Fly or a $30 whatever you can get for $30, nothing. It really comes down to your strings, your fingers on the strings. Very important, right? I've been using Diodario for 25 years, I think. Of course, they give them to me. That's the main reason. No, I'm just kidding. There is a very, very good reason why I use them, and I want to talk about these for real because they're fairly new. This is the NY style of Diodario strings. NY-XL, that's the size I use, XL. But the thing about these strings that I want to tell you about, it's pretty incredible. It's actually made of a new metal. What would you call that? A new alloy. Oh, I love that word. Thank you so much, Julie. It's made of a new alloy, and I promise you, it stays in tune better than any string I've ever played. That's worth a lot. So you can keep those strings on your guitars longer, and they stay in tune, and they actually speak better over time. They keep their clarity and their high end. So there you go. My commercial's over. Thank you. I do love these strings. I do love everything Diodario makes, and so many of these other companies. There's so many great companies out there now. I love you guys. Thank you for keep giving me toys, okay? If you want to check these strings out, go to tent number 9. And here, if you want some, ready? We could do that all night. Okay, before we proceed with another song, is there a question or two? Yes. He said, I like your music, however, your songs suck. What are you doing? Now, he wants to know about how I write lyrics to the songs. You know, I think it's one of the most difficult processes. And as I've talked to people like Paul Simon or someone, I know a lot of people have that same problem. When you put words on a piece of music, you're basically kind of starting to describe it, what the person is supposed to think or feel or how they're supposed to react. So I'm very, very careful with it. I listen to the piece of music, or as I'm writing it even, and I just start letting something occur. And finally I hear, oh, it's got to be this kind of song. It's going to be about this kind of thing. And now I'm going to write that. And usually a phrase will pop in my head. May end up being the title. It may end up being nothing. But it's the inspiration to start. Pen to paper or finger to keyboard. And from there, it's just working really hard with the words. I really think words are important in songs. They have to be phrased just perfectly so the syntax is hitting in the right place. The syllable. You see what I mean? The syllable. Two different things. So it takes a long time, but I love writing words. When I was a kid, I did pretty well in English lit. So I guess it comes from my love of writing. One more question and we'll move on. Yes. How do I enjoy working with Stewart Copeland? Are you kidding? I would say in my book, he's always been in my book. Since I started as a drummer with the Beatles. I wasn't in the Beatles, but I was with them the whole time. I was listening to them. My first drummer that I emulated was Ringo Starr. Second was a guy named Bill Bruford, who eventually I played with. And then I think third down that list was a guy named Stewart Copeland, who had a band called the Legal Assistance, Legal Aid, something to do with the law. I'm not sure. But Stewart's wonderful, very smart, great drummer, of course. And what I love about him is he has, as so many musicians have, found his own way of speaking on his instrument. And that's kind of what you're all here for, I think. You're trying to figure out how to express yourself, communicate something. The way he plays drums, he communicates loud and clear. And what he communicates is that he's a big loudmouth punk. I'm just kidding, Stewart. He's very smart, by the way. One more question and we'll play another song. I don't want to... Okay. I do. Have I repeated myself yet? I'm not under stress then. Speaking of that kind of song, let's play Thela Hun Jinjit. Why not, huh?
Bella,
Oh, thank you, thank you. Musicians standing up for other musicians. Oh, my God. I think I'm going to die. Thank you so much. I think we can do maybe one more song. Yeah? I won't talk anymore for you, but I want to say thank you so much for your generosity. Somewhere between Nashville yesterday, driving up to here, I left my voice. It's probably in a service station somewhere. So I want to thank Mark for coming in and helping me on the vocals. And even though I can barely speak, after we finish, I'll saunter over here because I have a brand new record called Flux Number 3. It's not even available online yet. So if you'd like to come over and check it out, and I'll say hi to you. I'm sure Julie will do the same. I don't know about Jordan. He's kind of shy. Okay, this is a song that uses looping once again in a different way. This time, I used the looper as my writing partner. I wrote a little line, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, chromatic kind of line, and then I figured out to play something around it, and that's what we're doing now, called E. Admit it's catchy. Thank you so much. Woo. Thank you very much. Good night.